So about a transmission oil change. So the filter is right here on the right side. We're going to access that from the bottom. It's right there where the light is. And then the dipstick that we're going to use for filling is right there on the left. And so when it comes to transmission flushing, what I want you guys to do, well, first of all, this is what the Honda dealership charges. Transmission fluid, $295 plus shop fees, taxes. They recommend every 30,000 miles, or 3 years, whichever is first. That's that. What I want you guys to do is find, so there's a TSB about the Ridgeline for judder and torque lockup issues. So Google and find this service bulletin, 17025. 17025. Reason I don't have this symptom, but the reason I printed it out is because the last page goes into the flush procedure for a transmission. And this you can do yourself. It doesn't require special tools. The term flushing refers to draining and filling transmission with Honda fluid. So it's not a special pump or anything like that. It's just drain, fill, drain, fill, drain, fill. If you read the instructions very carefully, you're going to do this 3 times. And so that's the flushing procedure. And you're going to use 3.3 quarts each time, maybe a little bit more in the last one. So what you're going to need is you're going to need about 10 quarts of this, which you can get on eBay, Amazon, or from the dealerships, ATF DW-1. You want to make sure you use only Honda fluid in this transmission. The one thing that I'm going to do different is I'm going to change the filter, which it does not talk about. It's like a $10 item that you can buy. And this filter works on many different Hondas, Accords, Pilots, Odysseys, but it's also the one for the Ridgeline. It's 25430-PLR-003. And it's a very simple, looks like an old school fuel filter that goes in that spot on the right hand side. You're going to access it from the bottom. And then when I'm done, I'm going to tell you the proper procedure, how to check the fluid level on a Honda transmission, because it's unique. And I have that procedure printed out too. So I'm going to do something up front instead of doing it later, just to get out of the way. You have to remove this plastic splash shield off. These little plastic clips are a pain in the butt. So I got one out pretty easy. What seemed to work best was a small flathead screwdriver. And you're going to plop it in here, and you got to get that thing to pop. Pop down. And there it went. You see how it's popped down? That means it's loose in there. Now you can either pull on it, yank on it. I'm going to use my tool I showed you earlier. Oh, there it went. And it went flying, but it's over there. And so that's the best thing to do, is plop it loose with a screwdriver, and then you can wiggle it out with your fingers or pry it out with something, okay? That was a pain in the butt. This thing's really filthy too, so it'll be nice to clean this up, get all the bugs out of it. So when you get done, you're gonna have, by the way, I pulled out a front plastic clip up front in the other video, but you didn't need to remove those, so I put those 3 back in. That was a mistake. When you're all done, you should have 4 clips, that's it. And you reset these by pulling them all the way out till they clip. And then you're gonna have kind of a long looking bolt in the rear, and then a shorter looking bolt right here. You're gonna have a Phillips screwdriver bolt right here, and then that'll duplicate on this side right there. And then you're gonna have 4 black bolts, 1, 2, 3 up front. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts and 4 plastic. Let's pick this up again. So I started changing the transmission oil around 30,000 miles, and then COVID hit, I just abandoned the project. But now my maintenance monitor came on, B13, B for engine oil, 1 for rotate tires, 3 for transmission. So now the computer's telling me change my transmission oil. So mine came on at 40,000 miles. 40,000 miles. So I'm gonna do it now. I have all the supplies, I just never did it. I'm gonna get it over with. But I don't like, I'm gonna do a flush, sort of. A Honda flush, which is a drain and refill 3 times. And because I know these transmissions tend to have a lot of problems, so I think this might be a better route to go. No one on the internet has done a video about this, so I'm going to do it this way the first time. And anyways, the first step is to sit in the car and get up to 3,000 RPM until the fans come on, so you can get that transmission hot. I just drove around the neighborhood, and I can see that both my electric fans are up front here, the radiator, are spinning now, so it's up to temperature. So I'm going to go ahead and start the draining process, which is step one. Got a little spill mat down. I got my oil bucket. I'm going to try this without jacking up the front of the vehicle for right now. And I don't care if it's not level right now, because I don't need it to be exact right now. And I couldn't find my 3/8 ratchet, so I put a 3/8 on the end of my 1/2 inch, and that's going to basically go right in there. And I gotta break it loose like that, which is actually pretty easy. I gotta get this position here, a little bit over, catch the initial spillage, and just undo it. Ooh, it's hot. Yeah. That's good. All right, so I'm gonna let that. I'll show you where I'm at on the list. Again, I downloaded this service bulletin 17025, and the back page it talks about how to clean your transmission out. So flushing refers to drain and refilling the transmission. So that's what you do with Honda. Only use Honda fluids. You're going to start the engine and hold the engine at 300 RPM without load or park or neutral until the radiator fan comes on. Let it idle. I just got back from a drive. Should be fine. Anyways, fan was on. Position the vehicle on the left and turn off the engine. Remove the ATF filler bolt and sealing washer. Raise the vehicle, make sure it's supported. Remove the drain plug and drain the ATF. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm on step 5. Okay. Once it's all drained out, I'm going to reinstall it with the original washer, and I'm going to torque it to 36 foot-pounds. I'll probably just make it feel tight for right now. And then we'll get on to drip drying. You can grab your drain plug, and you can see it's magnetic, which is good. It's collecting some metal, and mine looks pretty normal, I guess. And start to wipe that clean. You can see the garbage on there. Just use a clean towel. Fine. Really as simple as that. And then you'll be reinstalling it with this crush washer right here. You're going to keep that on until the 3rd time. So let's talk about the crush washer for a second. So this is the oil one right here, and you can see it's too small, so you can't use that one. If you have all-wheel drive, you've already got these 2 in your arsenal. Okay, this one here you can tell is too big, but this one here is perfect. So I think it's an 18 millimeter, but you want this crush washer. These are the numbers I have on my bag. Honda genuine. There's the numbers right there. X000, W45H09, and then 90471-PX4-000. I'm sure you can find it, but this is but if you're already changing your rear differential for all-wheel drive, you've already got these 2 washers, but you're gonna use this one here. Okay, so there is a filler plug on the top of the transmission. I've never been able to find it, and I don't think it's worth it. So we're gonna use what everybody else does, and that if you look right at the front, if you walk right up, you're gonna see your dipstick for checking your fluid level right right down, way down here. And you're gonna pull that out and rig a tube in there and fill it up, okay? That pulls out pretty easily. See, it's a pretty big hole down there. Got some various choices here. I got this thing, which I can probably rig a longer hose onto. I got this old thing. And I've got old reliable here. It's typical stiff funnel. So I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the stiff funnel in there first, because I don't have to worry about it moving around or anything and staying sealed on that hole like it is right now. And I'll probably feed one of these into that like this. And that way this thing is right up top here where I need it. And I think that's gonna work for fine. And you're gonna put 3.3 quarts in, 3.3. So I put my drain plug back on the ratchet. I probably need to feed it in by hand first, but I just wanted to make a note that this thing, even though it's been like 5 minutes, it's still got a pretty good drip to it. So I'm gonna give it a little bit longer. This is how I'm gonna get the 0.3 quarts. So 0.3 quarts equals 9.6 ounces. And this filler one here is graduated.
Are you talking to someone?
This filler is graduated. And you can see I got a 8 and a 12. So I'll basically I need to get it about in the middle there. A little bit below 10 ounces, and that'll be my 0.3, and that should work fine. That's down to a slow drip now, so we're gonna go ahead and put the drain back in with the old washer, and then this torque's at 36 foot-pounds, but I'm just gonna make it snug so that because I got to do this a couple more times, and it should be fine. Now we've drained it. We've installed the drain plug with the original washer. Lowered the vehicle. I've done all this without jacking it up at all. I'm just crawling underneath it. It's plenty of room. 3.3 quarts. That's going to be the next step. And then it says to install the filler boat and sealing washer, which I did not do. I'm filling through the dipstick, so you ignore line H. Just put the dipstick back in the hole, and then check that the fluid is filled to the proper level. We'll go over that. I got my 4 bottles for right now of the ATF DW-1, and we'll just we'll pour in 3. I really can't see what's going on down there. There's just too much stuff in the way, but that's why I use that solid filler at the bottom. But I'm just pouring real slow, and I left my drain tank there just in case I had spillage, but I'm not noticing anything spilling or dripping, so I think everything's going into the transmission like it should. This is a nice, clean, red transmission fluid. Again, the transmission holds a lot more oil than 3.3 quarts. That's why we're doing this 3 times, because you're basically mixing it, draining it, mixing it, and draining it. Because you do not flush a Toyota transmission. Simple. I gotta measure out around the point. See, I got about 10 ounces in there. This thing has a twisty on-off thing, so I can go ahead and release it. I'm sure you guys know how to properly read the dipstick. Start the engine. Hold the engine speed at 3,000 RPM without load in P or N until the radiator fan comes on, then let it idle. Just like the beginning of the directions, okay? That's fine. Park the vehicle on level ground, which I'll move over and do that. Turn the engine off. Within 60 to 90 seconds, remove the ATF dipstick A and wipe it with a clean cloth. Insert the dipstick back into the dipstick tube, aligning the notch with the guide tab. So here's the dipstick, and you see they're talking about this notch right here. And you want to make sure it's lined up properly right there, okay? And then check the ATF level, and you're going to not check this side, and you're going to read it on the side that says hot. And then make sure it's between those 2 circles. Again, because I'm draining this again, I'm not going to be super critical about it. So make sure it's between there. If it's below the mark, add the fluid, blah, 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 blah. If it's above the mark, drain out. So if it's too high, you drain it out. If it's too low, you add it in. Really as simple as that. This is a picture of the fill plug that's on the transmission. I don't think it's readily accessible. I think there's probably a bunch of stuff on above it that you can't get to it, to be honest with you, but we're just going to continue to use the filler tube. Okay. I haven't started the engine up, but I wanted to test the filler tube fit. And I can tell you the notch is on the left-hand side, but you really can't show on the camera, but I just did it by feel. And I stuck it in there and I could feel the notch on the left-hand side, and I could feel the notch on the dipstick, and I just lined them up, and you can tell it kind of snaps in place. Pull it out, and then on the hot side, and I can see right now the oil, even though it's not started and on level ground, it's a little bit high, so it's definitely got oil, nothing dripped out. Okay, so step 2, a little tricky. So my fluid levels is fine. I can go for a little drive. So next step is start the engine, press the VSA off button. Well, you might ask, well, what's a vehicle stability button and where is that? Well, it's the button that's not labeled. On my big manual, it's page 462. So what you're gonna do is, while your foot is on the brake and you're not moving, you're gonna hit this button right here with the little squiggly lines, and you're gonna turn your VAS off. Then you're going to shift it to drive. You're going to release it, you're going to press accelerator, and you're going to get up to 50 miles per hour. Make sure the transmission shifts through the first 3 lower gears and the 4th gear, and the torque converter is locking up. Apply the brakes to stop the wheels. Shift to reverse, then to neutral. Repeat shifting procedure 13 to 16 4 more times. Turn off engine. So we're gonna do that right now. Okay, so engine is started. We're going to hit this button right here. Traction control is off, and you start your drive cycle. Again, that was basically 50 miles per hour. Stop the vehicle, reverse, neutral, and then drive again, and do that 4 more times. Okay, so I zipped through the neighborhood 5 times at 50 miles per hour. I'm sure the neighbors didn't like that. Did the neutral reverse thing. I have no idea if the torque converter is locking up or not, but I just don't know. Turn off the engine, and now we're going to repeat steps 3 through 18 one more time. So pull the plug and start draining. So I pulled the plug in, same way, 3/8 driver. It's very hot. Make sure you're wearing gloves. Have a rag handy. Well, let's do it thing. I think it'll drain. Typically drain a little bit better if you pull the plug, or at least angle it a little bit. Kind of opens up that air gap at the top, and I think it'll drain a little bit smoother. And we'll let that drain for a little while. All right, so that's drain number 2. Got my plug again, the old washer again. And we're gonna plug that right back in there. I'm gonna just make it snug. And we're gonna jump on top, do the 3.3 quarts again. And should be a pretty quick process. And that's just, here we go. Fill number 2, same setup here. I got my 3 quarts, and then this is the partial one that I took 0.3 out of. And we'll do this process again. I did dump my oil tank. I wasn't sure how much capacity was left in that thing, so I didn't want it over pouring, so I did dump that out too. And so we'll add these in now. And this will be fill number 2. Okay, so 3.3 quarts is in, and hood is closed, dipstick is in. Everything is good to go. We're gonna do the same thing again. We're on step 19, which is repeating 3 through 18. And so now we're at step 11. Start the engine. Hit your VSA off. Then you'll see the little thing come on off. Now you're going to do that drive cycle 5 times of going up to 50 miles per hour, stopping the vehicle, putting it in reverse, then neutral, and repeat and do that basically 5 times. And then we're going to move on to step 20. I didn't mention this, and it doesn't say in here, but you do have this eco button. I turned my eco off because I know the eco button affects the transmission and how it shifts. And I think it's better to be doing this process with the eco off, which is its normal mode. Okay, so second drive cycle is completed. So I'm on, after the second refill and drive cycle done, drain the transmission. So that's where I'm at right now. Notice I've written in here change filter. Honda doesn't ever talk about changing the filter anywhere, but it is readily available and it is easy to fix, and you do see it in a lot of videos. Honda considers that filter a lifetime filter. That's why they don't mention it, but it's a cheap item and it's easily accessible, and might as well do it while you're here. Just make a note that you are going to use more than 3.3 quarts because of the filter. Maybe it's 3.5, maybe it's 3.6, 3.7. I don't know. I'm gonna have to play around with it, testing the level. So I'm gonna go ahead and drain it now for the third and final time. You can always use the Honda ATF fluid. Final fill. You want to grab your drain plug and give it another wipe down and clean. Remove the old washer and put your new 18mm washer on it. Get your torque wrench and set it for 36 pounds. Okay, and then this will be the filter that we're putting on. So here's the fill tube. So next to the transmission is the filter, and it's right down there. And there's a bracket with a 10mm nut on it that you're going to need to loosen that bracket. Okay, you can do that from the bottom. Get my oil ready again. So I got my 3 full containers, and then I got my partial one here. I will tell you that I'm a little nervous because of the filter. So after I started the video, I did pick up 1 more quart just as a CYA in case that filter and that tubing takes a little bit more than what's in those containers there. Some people report up the use of 4 quarts after this process. If that's the case, I definitely need an extra one, and so that's why I got the extra. All right, so it's down to a slow drip. So I'm gonna go ahead and got the new washer in there. Screw that on there. You gotta note there's a lot of splash around here, so you're definitely gonna want to do a little degreasing, de-oiling, especially if it's on the exhaust system. And we don't have any burning smells. And then we gotta get this thing torqued, and I may need 2 hands for this, but we'll get it. Get your torque wrench on there. Oh, there it is. All right, crush washer is crushed. So we're good to go. All right, so now for the filter. So I will tell you, it's definitely too tight for this stage. So I went ahead and jacked up the front left corner of the vehicle, and then you can see the filter is right here. And you gotta rig a small wrench with a 10mm on the end, and you gotta get to the back side of that bracket, and you gotta take that nut off. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, so through trial and error, it's really a pain in the ass to reach this thing, to reach that nut, but it ain't horrible. So I'm getting at it from this angle. I took off the extension on the ratchet. I can get on it right here, and I can swing it back and forth right here, and I can feel it coming loose. So that's the process I'm going to use from this angle to get it off. Okay, so there are a bunch of twists. About to come loose. Oh, there it is. I'm sure I'll never be able to get it on, but there it is right there. And then this, I have to play around with it, but this bracket thing swings off like that. Okay. That's good. You can see it only goes on one way. You can see the grooves in there. That's what holds that filter in place. So it's kind of, the filter is directional, so you got to make sure you put it back in the right direction. So, yeah, so the filter is attached to a rubber pipe and that goes to this solid pipe right here. So what we want to do is we want to release it right here. Let the oil drain down into our pan so we can get the filter dropped down to hopefully this space right up front, then we can do the filter swap. So I got my little wrench on there. I've got it squeezed up now. There we go. I'll let that go. So now that is moved up. Now I gotta break this seal right here. I'll use a screwdriver for that, and attempt to get this thing loose enough to come off. This little wire is kind of in the way, but I think I can work around it without it causing too much issue. But okay, so you're just gonna have to get that seal broken. You can also put I'll probably grab a wrench and twist this a little bit, twist the rubber just a little bit to kind of get to break the seal too. Yeah, I couldn't find some pliers, so I just grabbed some of these electrical ones, but I just want to get it on here and just kind of twist it back and forth, just enough to get to break its heat seal. You can see it moving now, and then we're gonna continue to get the drain pan underneath it, and I'm gonna work on getting the seal broken. Don't damage that rubber too bad. I think it'll come loose. If a little oil drips down, that's good. It'll lubricate that seal and it'll make it plop right off. And so let's keep working it. Be patient. It's a metal pipe. Not going to be able to cause much damage to it. And eventually it'll break free on you. That way you can help pry it off. I'm going to use two hands though. It's coming. Just want to show you it's starting to come off. What I did is I put the screwdriver right here against this bracket, and I stuck it right there, and I pried up. See how it's moving now? And that seemed to work pretty good. Same thing on this side. I can go in here and I can get a little leverage here to break it loose. And then eventually it'll just come off on its own. Oh, it's moving some more. All right, here comes the oil. So now it's loose. I should be able to, yeah, just picked it off my hand. I'm just gonna let this drain for a little while. All right. So it's still dripping, but you get the idea. And now you can grab it, move it to the front of the cross member. And now you can see it's accessible enough that you can do the swap really easily, and you can see the ridge is on the lower part on this half, so make sure you get the same orientation done. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna remove the top one here, so I can remove it, and I'll swap the bottom one out on the new filter, on the ground. And this thing's still dripping a bit, so I'm gonna let it go a little bit longer. So to get this one off, I'll just raise the clip up, and I found my pliers. I'm just twisting it back and forth, and it's slowly working its way off. Well, there you go. I will tell you, quite a bit of oil came out of the line when I got the filter off, so make sure you got your drip pan underneath it for sure, okay? So here's the new filter installed. Pipe came off, no problem. Now just reverse the process and stick it back in. Push the filter back over this front cross member and slide it back on there and pull this down. You can feel the hump in the filter on the back side. You know you got the clamp in the right spot, because you want to make sure the clamp is in front of the little hump here. That's built into the filter, so it's got a nice tight seal. And now we're gonna reverse myself so I'm this turned around so my feet are towards the front of the truck, and then we'll work on getting that bracket in place. Now we want to get that bracket in place. So if you look over here, you can see the top of the bracket. There's a little slit. There's a little slit right up here by my finger, or a hole rather. And that's what the top of the bracket here goes into. And then the filter, the ring around the filter goes into the skinny slit that's in the bottom here of the bracket. All right, so now it actually went on very, very easily. It did take 2 hands, one on the back side of the cross member here and one on the front side. And I slipped it in the hole and I moved it around the filter and got it in the slit. So now all we gotta do is put that 10mm bolt back in, which I'll do by hand at first. All right, so I pushed on the bracket a little bit and I fed the bolt in. And then I put a little wrench on it and tightening it up right now. It only took a few seconds. I was anticipating it being worse. Again, you're doing it all by feel. You just can't see anything back there. So that is all done now. So I gotta work on the next step, which is probably just filling in the oil back in. I'm probably gonna leave the splash plan off for a week and then check for any drips or leaks next weekend. I think the hardest part of this project is taking that splash pan off, to be honest with you. Everything else has been pretty darn easy. We're finally back onto the path here. So new washer installed, torque down, filter changed, fill the transmission. Install the filler bolt. We're not doing the filler bolt thing because we're just filling it through the dipstick, and confirm the judder is gone. So this had to do with this techno service and bulletin on the 2017 having a judder from the torque converter lockup, and it basically resulted in that the judder is caused by deteriorated transmission fluid, and so that's why this flushing was included in this procedure here. So it's supposedly fixed. I never felt that judder, so I never went into the dealership for that, but this certainly can't hurt. So once you fill it up, at that point, all you're gonna do is to check the level, and then you're done. All right. So I got the 3 quarts in, and then my fill one that I was using for the other 2 dumps, when I emptied that out, I ended up at about 14 ounces. I'm gonna go ahead and put all that in, because I think I'm still gonna be low because I changed that filter. So I'm probably just gonna do that and then do a check on the dipstick here in a little bit. Okay, so fluid's in and dipstick's back in its hole, and now we just gotta start the engine and let it warm up. I'll tell you, before I warm the engine up, I degreased the whole bottom side. I'm gonna spray it down real good. I use this stuff from Walmart, but you want to clean up real good. You got a lot of oil splatter down there probably. I probably took a good 5 minutes to warm up this engine from being completely cold, because it's the next morning. But I wanted to read the. So, anyways, you're gonna put it on level ground, and then and then set your timer. Turn the engine off, and then in 60 seconds, pull the dipstick and wipe it with a clean cloth, and then check the level. All right. Should be between the 2 dots on the stick. If the ATF level is below the lower mark, check for fluid leaks at the transmission hoses and line joints. If a problem is found, fix. If the vehicle is driven with the level low, you may experience transmission damage. Vehicle does not move in any gear. Vehicle accelerates poorly and engine revs up abnormally high when starting off in forward and reverse conditions. Engine vibrates at idle. So that's interesting. If the ATF level is above the mark, the vehicle may creep forward while in neutral or have shifting problems. So those are the symptoms if you're above or below the mark, which I thought was interesting. So I'm glad I bought that extra quart. So after 60 seconds, a dipstick, and right now it's at the bottom, right by the letter H. So it's in the safe zone, but it's definitely low. So I need to go ahead and try and get a little bit more oil in there after 60 seconds there. Of course, I crawled back under real quick, checked for some oil leakage. Everything's nice and dry. The only thing I didn't do, I need to put a glove back on. It's really, really hot down there, and this dipstick, all metal, is very hot. Definitely have a glove on when you're doing this check process because it's so hot. It also doesn't hurt to spot check. I did it by eye to make sure you're on level ground, but once you get it looks like I'm within the bubble, so it looks like I'm pretty level right now. So that's good. Start the process again. I'm gonna run it through, all all the gears. And again, 3,000 RPM till the radiator fans come on. So check it again in about a minute. Okay. So round 2. Didn't add too much, but it's basically about halfway up on the mark right now. I will tell you, when I first did it, it read 0. That's because, again, it wasn't fully slotted into that notch. You gotta be really sure it's statistics all the way down, or you're gonna get fooled in adding too much oil, okay? So be careful there. All right, so I went back and forth several times. Kept adding oil and adding oil. Right now it's basically showing about halfway. But I've added almost that entire spare quart. So anyways, it's in the safe zone. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drive it in real world conditions and check it again in a day or two. Because I don't want to overfill it by accident is the main thing. But I'm in between the dots. That's all it needs to be for right now. And I'm gonna take it for, you know, nice drive and let it idle, and then check it again in a day or two, and see how it's doing. Ideally, I'm going to get it pretty close to that upper dot, though. The more fluid in there, the better. I'll check in soon. There we go. It's hard to see, but I'm right on the line right now, on the dot, as being full. It's weird. On the backside, it's like all the way up in like another inch. You really got to make sure you check this side, the hot side. I will tell you that I ended up dumping this entire bottle in, my last quart, my filler quart. It's completely empty, and I used a lot more oil than I thought, but I have enough. So everything's good. I've climbed underneath and I've got no leaks. Everything's nice and tight. I did put the car up in ramps to make it easier to reinstall the splash shield. Now I gotta figure out where all these damn bolts go to. I have to figure that out, but you got 4 of these plastics, 2 of these silvers, 2 of these felt shoes. These I'm gonna lube up because they were very difficult to remove. And then 2 of these longer ones. This thing is all cleaned up. How I restored it is I just used some foam cleaner and a rag. And then this magic stuff in a bottle. Just wiped it on and it comes out looking like new. All right, I think I got it right. What a pain. All right, so these 3 clips up front are the ones that you do not have to remove. They can stay there, right? You keep them there. The plastic clips, there's four of them. 2 are round and 2 have a little notch. I put the 2 with the notch at this location here and here. So on this cross member beam thing, that's where I put the 2 with the little notch inside. The 2 round ones I put up front. That way they match these right here. And that's kind of the look I got, okay? And then the 2 long bolts, this is how I had it pictured, is it's this layer, then this little thing here, and then the splash is on top of that. The long bolts I put in here, I think they'll go. And then the silver bolts right behind it, right here. And then the Phillips head is at the furthest back point right here. And then everything duplicates on the right side. You got the Phillips head, you got the silver head, and I got the long bolt right here. So long, silver, Phillips, and then the 4 short black ones went in these 4 cubbies along up front here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And everything should tighten up and work well. And that'll be the end of this video. Good luck. Note that the only reason you remove this splash shield is to get at that oil, that filter up there. The drain plug is right here. It's fully accessible. So if you're just doing a drain fill situation, you don't have to remove the splash shield. Okay, good. Now, if I got any of those bolts or screws in the wrong location from the factory, just leave it in the comments. It's working for me. I should have documented it a little bit better when I took it off.